Hello. This is Wednesday, May 10th, 2023. The temperature around here in Kentucky, specifically Lexington, is around 50 degrees, going up to 78. Rain possible Thursday afternoon. This is a sideshow. I'm Theodore Parker. And if you're watching the sideshow on Facebook and Instagram, don't forget to like, comment, and share. If you're watching the sideshow on YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe. Sideshow Coffee Cup. Buy from me for $17 plus shipping and handling. Pay me through Cash App. $ TR Parker 1. So, after yesterday's show, here's some items in the news today. Representative George Santos charged by federal prosecutors in New York. George has been in the news over the past several months for various activities that he's being investigated for. Next, Tucker Carlson announces new show on Twitter. Elon Musk says there's no deal of any kind whatsoever. Number 3, Texas mall shooter had 8 guns and targeted location, authorities say. In California Recreations Committee calls for mandatory anti-bias training to graduate medical school. If you didn't know, the Recreations Committee in California is asking for something like millions of dollars, $200 million in reparations, dare I say, per person. 5, asked to delete references to racism from her book, and author refused. Next, family of Texas SUV crash survivor. Please, President Biden, we ask you for your help. Next one, Tory Lanez, hope I'm saying that right. Tory Lanez denied new trial in Megan Thee Stallion's shooting. 8, Paramount lays off 25% of TV network's staff. Shuts down MTV News. Number 9, Trump reacts after being found liable for defamation, battery in E. Jane Carroll case. And number 10, 8 in 10 scams come from Mark Zuckerberg's platforms, says TSB. Let me kind of set this up a little bit. Over the past little while, Mark Zuckerberg has declared the year of efficiency for Meta, which resulted in 11,000, then 10,000, and then 4,000 job layoffs and firings from Meta. On the other end, as a billionaire, he was in the top 10. And when we say billionaire, I don't mean like 3 or 4 or 5 billion. I mean in the hundreds. I think they were like 200 plus billion for the number 1 spot, and accordingly, and Mark Zuckerberg was like 100 in the high 100s, 180 or something like that. So now, after all the financial disasters associated with the metaverse, he's knocking at the door of number 10 in position number 12, according to Forbes billionaire listing. And remember, I just gave you information regarding the Facebook users class action suit. And included with that was the biometrics suit for those people in the state of Illinois. And I'm passing it on to you as a viewing audience because, at the very least, I urge caution for the following reasons. During that same period, he filed a salary of $1 and withdrew $24 million. And then in 2019, specifically, he was fined $5 billion after appearing in Congress to the financial board, affiliated with the SEC, which kind of came out of the Cambridge Analytical thing, which brings us back to the Facebook class action suit, which is different than the biometric suit that was filed in the state of Illinois. So, at the same time that this $5 billion fine went down, he promised in his business practices not to monitorize. Now, recently, I read an article where he is being called to task for monitorizing 18-year-olds and younger. So, he has his 38th birthday in 4 days. Now, this is Mark Zuckerberg, the businessman. So let's keep this on the up and up, all right? And as far as billionaires are concerned, I put it to you this way. The way Mark Zuckerberg is acting with his billions is not the way that other billionaires that I'm familiar with are acting with their billions. At this time, they shall remain nameless. So, you can kind of roll that one around in your head. But as a viewing audience, from time to time, I will advise you of certain things that are going on my side. And in use an expression, caution you. So this is similar to that. This article, 8 in 10 scams come from Mark Zuckerberg's platform, says TSB addresses some of the same things that I caution you as a viewing audience to be aware of, and most importantly, not participate in. Because I do get the word. As far as Mark Zuckerberg and his upcoming class action suit related to Cambridge Analytical, I advise you sleep with one eye open. Sleep with one eye open. So here we go. This is dated 5 days ago. And it begins. Mark Zuckerberg's social media empire has been accused of fueling Britain's fraud epidemic by one of the country's leading banks. TSB said 8 in 10 scams originated on either Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram, all companies owned by Mr. Zuckerberg's company, Meta. Paul Davis, the bank's director of fraud prevention, called on social media companies to urgently clean up their platforms to protect users. TSB said fake online purchase, false impersonation scams, and sham investments were the 3 biggest sources of fraud among its customers. 80% could be traced back to Meta's social media platforms, it said. The bank's customer fraud data from 2022 also showed cases of friends and family impersonation fraud tripled compared to the prior year. It said such scams took place predominantly on WhatsApp, which accounted for 65% of cases. A recent iteration of WhatsApp scam has been the Hi Mom text ploy, where fraudsters pretend to be distressed children to con cash out of parents. Excuse me. Investment fraud took place primarily on Instagram, where 6 in 10 scams originated, TSB said. Facebook accounted for 22% of cases. Paul Davis, the bank's director of fraud prevention, called on social media companies to urgently clean up their platforms, protect users, and said lack of security was preventing social media users from completing transactions securely. He said it's high time the social media and telephone companies took financial liability for the rising levels of fraud taking place on their platforms. A polluter pays approach will incentivize them to show greater vigilance, reduce the fraudulent activity on their platforms, and in turn, better protect consumers in the UK. It follows the government's announcement on Wednesday in which it unveiled fresh plans to crack down on tech scammers by bringing in intelligence agencies. Writing in the Telegraph, Suella Braverman, the Home Secretary, said, "We must bring more fraudsters to justice." Ms. Braverman said the government would be banning devices that allow criminals to send mass scam texts or disguise their calling number to make it untraceable calls. We will also propose banning cold calling on financial products and clamp down on number spoofing. Ms. Braverman said the introduction of the long-awaited online safety bill would make technology platforms responsible for protecting users from fraud. Inherent technology firms and social media platforms that fail to prevent fraud on their sites will face fines up to 10% of their global turnover under the new laws currently being considered by the House of Lords. These are expected to be brought in over the course of the next year. Her comments were echoed by the Prime Minister, who said, by blocking scams at the source, boosting protections for people, and bolstering investments, we will stop more of these cold-hearted crimes from happening in the first place and make sure justice is done. However, in a statement last night, TSB said Brightons cannot wait another 12 months for vital refund protections to be brought in. Ricio Concha of consumer group Which, said the figures from TSB exposed the worrying nature of social media scams, adding Facebook and Instagram users were being bombarded with the flood of misleading and potentially fraudulent investment adverts. She added, the government must take a vital step in the fight against fraud by ensuring upcoming legislation includes the strongest possible protection for consumers and is passed into law without further delays. Meta said it was working with Stop Scams UK, a cross-industry fraud group, to prevent fraud and raise awareness. A spokesman said, we don't want anyone to fall victim to these criminals, which is why our platforms have systems to block scams. Financial services advisors now have to be FCA authorized, and we run consumer awareness campaigns on how to spot fraudulent behavior. People can also report this content in a few simple clicks, and we work with the police to support their investigations. The only thing that I can add to that from my side of the screen is that, yes, I do get the notice if a person is involved in scamming activities, which I do not mention. I just quietly exit the conversation. So, to be forewarned is to be forearmed. That's it. Hashtag.